Yeah, Weege show. Round 4, Monster Energy AMA Supercross is a wrap. We'll be sending it out to Anaheim with Kellen Brauer for the Keyed show, and we'll get the atmosphere from Angel Stadium in just a moment. But look, this is a pivotal round, critical juncture of the series. Use whatever analogy you want. This is either a train leaving the station, and the riders are quickly going to realize if they're on it or not, or these are playoff games, and we are eliminating contenders by the week. Because to me, it's pretty obvious who the 3 best riders in this series are. It's Eli Tomac, Jason Anderson, and Chase Sexton, and not just because they were the 3 riders on the 450 podium tonight, but if you really look at this series on balance, Anderson and Sexton have had plenty of moments where they've been the fastest guy and they've each won races. And Tomac already had the points lead coming into this one, and he is going to be dangerous now. Look, Tomac looked good on the Yamaha from press day in Anaheim 1. I don't think the transition, right from that moment, you could tell it's going to be fine. Now, can he execute? Can he be the best guy? We know he's going to be good. For Tomac to have the early season points lead, which he normally doesn't do, and to now have a win, and he really did it straight up against Anderson, and Sexton had a shot to catch him tonight and couldn't do it. This is dangerous for everyone else. I know Tomac has had his inconsistencies in the past, but still, he is the most experienced rider in this field. He's won the most races by far. To just count on him to throw it away, I don't know if he could do that anymore. And it certainly appears that he's got the speed now. So this is dangerous for everyone else. Anderson and Sexton have reason to be happy with their riding. They're good. But we've got some alarm for others, starting with Cooper Webb, who just did not have it tonight. And I think it was 8th. Even had a fall, went around the whoops. This is not the championship level Cooper Webb that we've come to know over the last couple of years. There's got to be some real head scratching and some long days at the test track coming up. I know it's only 4 rounds, but we know usually around rounds 3 to 5, the pattern has pretty much established itself. So Webb and a lot of other riders have to be scratching their heads right now. How do they get on board? How do they catch that train that's about to leave the station with only 3 riders on it? We'll see. Thanks to RaceTech and their gold valves for backing these videos. You know RaceTech gold valves. Your suspension will be plusher, better bottoming resistance. Made in the USA, you'll also have more traction, and traction was key on a very slick surface in Anaheim 2. It was a lot different than Anaheim 1. For more Anaheim talk and for the exact atmosphere from the racetrack in the stadium, it's time for the Weege, Kellen and Weege, Keyed show. Send it to Kellen Brauer.
Yeah, Weege show. Kellen Brauer here, filling in for Jason Weigandt this weekend. You guys know it already. You guys have been watching, you've been keeping up. And boy, oh boy, did we just have a crazy night of racing, both the 450 and 250 class. We had battles that felt like they were going to kind of go all the way until the end and kind of didn't. It kind of separated a little bit at the end, and we didn't really get those kind of last lap battles that we really like to see, but it was still a lot of good, fun racing, and maybe a little bit more predictable now in this 450 class. I feel like we're starting to see some trends. We're starting to see some things get into shape a little bit here. Eli Tomac, he takes the win tonight, and he did so kind of by, getting a decent start. It wasn't the best start ever. He didn't get the whole shot or anything like that, but he got right up there into the mix and kind of just let the cards fall his way. Early in the race, Ken Roczen, he's leading the race. He's kind of pulling away a little bit, and then it seemed like he hit maybe a little bit of a wall on like lap 4 or 5 and kind of slid back into the battle that was going on there. You had Jason Anderson, you had Eli Tomac, Malcolm Stewart, all kind of closing in and getting into the mix a little bit, and before you know it, Anderson slides down the inside of the sand on Ken Roczen, runs him pretty much right to the edge of the track. They make contact. Roczen goes down pretty hard, honestly. Fortunately, he did go down in sand because it wasn't maybe as bad as it could have been, but yeah, pretty much kind of ended his night a little bit. He ended up 13th, but he got up in 13th and then rolled around the track a little bit and then pulled off the track next to the whoops and took his goggles off and was trying to get sand out of his goggles and everything like that. And he would end up in like 21st and charge back to 13th. But that already puts him in a huge hole. I believe he's 23 points down in this championship now already. And suddenly this real tight championship that we were talking about at round 3, coming into round 3, has now blown open in a lot of regards, leaving round 4 of this championship. Moving on from Roczen, though, if we go talk about Jason Anderson and his situation, he takes the lead after that moment with Roczen. He's starting to inch away a little bit. We've got to see if we can figure out a way out of this place. A lot of the gates are closed up. But he's starting to, he gets into the lead, tries to kind of settle it back down a little bit after the contact with Roczen. Nobody really wants that to happen, obviously. And actually did kind of start keeping a little bit of a gap behind him on Eli Tomac, who had then moved into second place. He's closed, he's kind of opening that gap a little bit. Then he said in the post-race press conference that he thought Tomac was doing the triple behind him into the raised corner. Eli wasn't. Eli was just going double, triple, single to the inside, and Anderson thought it was the latter, and he thought that he needed to start doing that to actually pull back time, pull away from Eli Tomac. He didn't need to do it, but he started doing it, and that's where the mistake came. He got the jump up onto the plateau a little bit wrong, just kind of stood himself up and then went to the top of the kind of pseudo berm that was there, came to a stop. Eli Tomac goes by, and that was kind of it. Like, that was the gap more or less established at that point. Still trying to figure out if there's a way out of this place. But that was the gap established. Jason kind of tried to close back up on Tomac, but just couldn't ever seem to really get anything going. He would gain a couple tenths a lap and then lose a couple tenths a lap, and it just never really seemed like he found, I guess, that extra little pace that he needed to get to Tomac. So Tomac was able to pull it out. It's about a 3-second gap in the end. Takes his first win of the season, first one with Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha, so that obviously is a fantastic detail for him. I feel like he's going to be pretty stoked about that. But then for Anderson, he finishes second, and right after the race, of course, everybody's going to ask him, what about the contact with Roczen? He owned it straight up. A lot of people, it seems like, are already on the fence a little bit about it, that, maybe Roczen could have backed out. But Anderson said, no, that was me. I don't like to race like that. It's not the way I wanted to make it happen. But yeah, he owned it. So I don't know. You can say, oh, Kenny should have backed out. But if Jason is literally saying it was his fault, I don't know what you say. But Jason now moves into third in the championship. He is 8 points back of Eli Tomac. The man behind them in the race, but moving into between them in the championship, was Chase Sexton. Chase Sexton came home third here tonight in Anaheim, and kind of just chose the Tomac approach a little bit. Just kind of settled into a pace. I don't think I'm going to get out of this place. I can't find an open gate. But, took the Tomac approach with kind of letting the race come to him. He had a good pace, but it just didn't seem like he was willing to maybe, push it in certain areas. The track had a certain limit to it almost, and it sounded like, seemed like Sexton found it, seemed like Anderson kind of found it. There just wasn't really a place that they could do something different to make up time. The whoops kind of just became standard. There wasn't really anything massively different or weird that the guys could do in the whoops. Marvin Musquin started jumping through the whoops at one point, and he was actually making a little bit of time on Malcolm Stewart to maybe get into fifth. Ended up not getting there either. So the second half of the race was just kind of like a bit of a lull. Like, it felt like there was a crescendo coming, but it never really fully got there. So very weird situation, obviously. But so now Eli Tomac, he's got a 6-point lead in the championship. Chase Sexton moves into that second spot in the championship. Anderson moves to third. Webb now stays in fourth. Webb had a weird night. He tipped over in a corner. It took a long time to get going. The 450 results are actually still pending right now. I got to go figure out what's going on there. It might have been Malcolm Stewart cutting. He got the whoops wrong one lap and then kind of cut the track. Might be that. Might be Webb going next to the whoops. Not sure what it is, but hopefully maybe we'll figure it out and add it to the ending of the Weege show here. But moving on to the 250 class, the 450 class is crazy. You guys know it, it's blown wide open. But the 250 class, on the flip side of that, is kind of becoming more of a trend that we expect with this 250 class. 2 or 3 guys breaking away and being the guys. Now, we talked about it coming into this weekend. It just kind of felt like it was a 3-man, battle for the championship at this point between Christian Craig, Hunter Lawrence, and Michael Mosiman. Mosiman was third in the championship coming in. And then tonight, Mosiman, gets a start, and he's battling, to get into the front. Christian Craig moves into second right behind him, and then the race is kind of on. Like, it seemed like Craig would just inch up a little bit on Michael and then kind of lose it a little bit and back up and then inch up on him again. And it was very similar to what we saw at Anderson and Tomac later on, except for the fact that Craig did eventually get there. I'll try to go through one of these gates right here. I'm not sure if they're locked or if these guys have figured out a way through yet. But, eventually Craig did get there. Was able to make a pass on Mosiman. Mosiman tried to come back a couple times. Mosiman actually seemed to be really good, and he alluded to this as well. Let's see if this gate's open right here. Oh, nope. All right, so we figured it out. I was able to go down in the tunnel and get out of here. Anyway, back to the Craig and Mosiman situation. Again, it seemed like Mosiman had his spots, right? He had his spots where he was able to kind of close up and get that gap down just a little bit, but it just was never enough, and Craig was able to keep that gap kind of steady. actually did open it out a little bit more so at the end than we saw with the Tomac and Anderson situation. It seemed like Anderson was closing it back up, but then, you know, Craig got that gap established at the end and was kind of able to get away. So he wins his 3rd race of the year, and yeah, extends the championship lead. After yesterday, the big crash that he had on press day, kind of incredible that he's walking out of here as the winner, because he could have easily been injured in that crash, and you know, he's thanking his lucky stars on that one. But yeah, he's the winner here tonight in Anaheim. Mosiman finishes 2nd. Behind them, chaos ensues. Vince Friese's running in 3rd place. Hunter Lawrence starts to catch him. Joe Shimoda, he's right up there in the mix as well. They all kind of got together with about 3 or 4 laps to go, and Friese was trying so hard to finish on the podium, man. He really wanted that podium, and just one little mistake and the whoops got him. Gets sideways, gets kicked to the ground, stands back up after Mosiman goes by, just in time to get clocked in the side of the head by Shimoda coming by. Tough luck for Vince Friese. Took his helmet off and was standing in the infield, and didn't look like he's having a good time after that one, so probably got knocked a little bit silly. But yeah, Hunter Lawrence came through, finished 3rd in the main event. Shimoda fell at that point. I think he ended up in 7th or 8th. I think it was somewhere back there. So yeah, it was kind of wild landing in the battle for 3rd in that 250 race. But yeah, Christian Craig wins again, sends that championship lead. Still feels like this Craig, Mosiman, Lawrence situation is still what we're looking at moving forward. Lawrence did look a little bit off today. It was kind of weird. His practice pace wasn't as strong as maybe you would normally expect. To the eye test, it seemed like he just didn't really feel comfortable enough on the bike to push it. And this track, like I said, there was a limit to it. These guys were trying to find that limit on the track, and it never really felt like Lawrence could find that limit. So, I mean, take it for what it's worth. It did seem like he's a little bit happier with 3rd tonight, where in the past couple of weeks, he's been mad to finish 2nd, mad to finish 3rd. Like, he feels like he had the pace to win, but tonight just looked different for him. He just looked like he knew he was a 3rd place guy, and gonna take it in stride, and you know, only lost, I think, another 5 points in the championship to Craig. So we're 4 rounds in it. He's only 11 points out. It's close. Mosiman's still sitting right there. It's, you know, any one of these guys just takes one bad race for Craig, or, you know, a great race for these guys, you know, switch the tides a little bit, get those points rolling back in their favor, and then before you know it, this championship's a whole new ball game kind of heading into the break. We got 2 more races, Triple Crown next week in Glendale for the 250 guys, of course, and then they will wrap up kind of their first half of the season back here in Anaheim 2 weeks after tonight, and then they have a long break. There's an East-West showdown in Atlanta, I believe it is, or something like that. But it's going to be a while before they race again. I think Seattle actually comes before that. So yeah, they got a long break, and that's coming up quickly. So they're going to have some time to think about that a little bit, and kind of getting into the dog days of this championship a little bit. So it's going to be fun to watch. Of course, I want to give a shout out to RaceTech and their gold valves for sponsoring this video. RaceTech is a big friend of mine as well. Always love the guys over there, and they've helped out a lot over the years with a lot of different things. So head over to RaceTech. They can help you out, dial in your suspension, and they do engine work over there as well. So thanks for them for sponsoring the show, and we are on to next week already. I can't believe we're heading to round 5. There's Triple Crown in Glendale. It's going to be a good time. We'll see you then.